Hey, what's up guys? We're back again with our 9th video in 9 weeks, and I actually think that's a pretty cool accomplishment. I wanted to get to 10, but it's just not gonna happen. I've been taking online classes for the last 7 months to get my home inspector license for Oklahoma and Arkansas, and I'm about to the point where I have to study for my national exam and do some field training, and that's gonna take a significant amount of time, in addition to a mission trip and some other things I have coming up. So I'm gonna call this a season wrap for now, but I definitely plan to come back, probably with an additional channel that's gonna focus on our home inspection side of our business and rural lifestyle. And I'm gonna keep this one alive for all of my cool projects and everything that we're working on in the shop. So what we've got coming up in this episode is a bunch of stuff I've got on my mind that I just think I'm gonna have to tackle, and I wanna bring you guys along. So let's hang out for a few more minutes right now, and I'll show you all what we have coming up when I have the time to come back to this channel. Actually really bad. There's actually no hardware. First, starting. Ultimately, I just have a passion for making stuff, generally with the best tools I can find. Since I really enjoy stuff and tools, having the right ones excites me pretty much more than anything. I have a little over 15 years of construction experience working for myself here in a rural environment. We've built a number of homes with my own hands and with helpers, all the way down to subcontracting some out where I did very little by myself with my own hands. In addition to building homes, we've done a number of remodels, and we've done some dirt work projects ranging from large to small and owned some pretty cool equipment. So that's kind of where we've been aside from the work side of things. I've always had a really substantial interest in cars, hot rods, motorcycles. I have owned quite a few cars. I've built or assembled a handful, and I've also had a cool opportunity of working with some guys who did really fantastic work. Some of the highlights of cars I've owned are a 63 Super Sport Nova that I repainted and did some modifications to in high school. I also rebuilt the motor at one point when it ate a cam. I had a 67 Chevy truck that was probably the first paint job I ever did, and it turned out acceptable for a first paint job. The truck had already been lowered. It had a notched frame in the rear. It was a big block truck, really fun truck. And probably the paint job I'm most proud of I did is the last paint job I completed. It was a 71 Sanger V-Drive boat that I did a sand down, repaint on, and I also installed the motor and did the interior and played with that boat for about a summer. As far as projects that I've been involved with other people that I was pretty excited to participate in, I got to help assemble some Harley Davidson style choppers. Some had Harley motors in them, shovelhead, panhead. I was around a little bit of TIG welding. I watched those frames being built. Actually, when I lived back in Arizona, I got to visit Spartan Frameworks and watch them build some motorcycle chassis, which was really exciting and probably laid a foundation for my interest in welding and fabrication. I painted a 33 Ford sedan when I was younger. Really cool car. I was blessed to be a part of that. And I worked for a guy in high school who taught me a lot about assembling motors and putting blowers off and on, and got to play with some pretty cool stuff. So that's pretty much where I've been, who I am. Basically, bottom line, I just love making stuff. If I get to weld or grind or make sparks, that's even better. And if I can play with the newest, greatest, coolest tools, that is just icing on the cake. And bottom line, I joke with people sometimes that I like to build stuff so I can use the tools. So on this channel, you're probably going to find a pretty heavy focus on the latest and greatest tools. One of the projects that I've already been working on that I'm super excited to continue working on is my 1967 Mustang. It has a 289 in it and a T5 5-speed. For the first time, I'm building a car with more of a Trans Am theme. I would say a vintage Trans Am theme. I've looked at cars from the 70s, some of the popular Trans Am cars, and I'm not going to claim that I'm really trying to clone a Trans Am car, but that's an inspiration for this build. Some of the things I've accomplished on this car since I got it, one of the very first problems I ran into was I heard a sound coming from the engine that I thought was maybe an exhaust leak. I started to think it was detonation, so I pulled a bunch of timing out of the motor. I decided I had a rod knock. So I did maybe the wrong thing the right way, and I pulled the oil pan off the bottom of the motor, and I pulled the accessories off the front. I left the transmission connected, and I loosened the crank by pulling the main caps just enough where I could spin the old bearings out, and I did like a poor man's polish. I used fine grit sandpaper and emery cloth and wrapped a shoestring around it, and I polished all of the journals on the crank for the rods and the main bearings just by using that shoelace to work the sandpaper back and forth with a lubricant in there. There were very minor scratches in it, and then I spun in some new bearings that were rated for monster truck use and could handle some dirt and grime in case there was any trash left in the motor. And believe it or not, that sound went away. I've got about 3,000 miles on the car since I did that. That's the first major project I did. After I did that to the car, I wanted to focus on stance and drivability. So a few things that I did to kind of help with the theme. I did pull the bumper off the front. I cut a hole in the factory lower valance for the front and welded an air intake Shelby style scoop to it. And this kind of goes along the theme of something that would have been done on a vintage Trans Am car, using factory components and modifying it in the shop to work better. So this would have increased airflow to the radiator, and really it just looks cool. It's part of the look I was going for. I think I cut 1/2 or 3/4 of a coil out of the front and lowered the front about 1.5 inches, I would guess. I put lowering blocks in the rear, new shocks all the way around the car. I put an 1.125 sway bar on the front of the car, and I also installed an export brace and a Monte Carlo bar. While I was doing all of that, I welded in subframe connectors under the car, and what a difference. This car feels so much stiffer going down the road now. The steering was so much more responsive. In addition to that, I've installed some new vintage USA gauges. I bought a Grant steering wheel and stained and polyurethaned it because I didn't like the way it felt. I installed a new dash pad. I've ripped up some old insulation out of the car. I relocated the shifter handle for comfort. I got some 15 by 8 inch torque thrusts to match the back wheels, and I put a wider tire all the way around the car, about the max that I think I can get under it without serious modification. One of the very last things I did was actually for clearance, but it was kind of a neat modification. I had long tube headers on the car, and I put some Doug's Tri-Y headers on the car with a Trans Am style side exhaust. So I bought a kit with glass packs and turnouts, and for my first time actually ever messing with exhaust, I welded up the connection points from the glass pack to those Doug headers, which was a really fun project. So now we've got side exhaust on it, and I also put some lap belts in the car. So that's what I've done. Some of the things that are coming up on this project next, I have a 3/4 inch sway bar for the rear that I would still like to put on. I would still like to complete the interior. My plan for that is Dynamat, insulation, make it as quiet as I can. I'm wanting to put a Mustang Stafir one-piece headliner in the car because I'm a tall guy and that has a couple inches more clearance. Also, I have done headliners before and they just didn't turn out the way I wanted. So I'm pretty excited to see if the one piece actually installs and looks as nice as I think it will. I have new door panels for the car. I have a new rear seat cover. I would like to fab a center console for this car. And I am undecided if I'm gonna paint the interior or if I did it would be black. I'm tempted to leave the patina and just clear coat the metal of the dash and the doors and replace door panels and just go black in everything that can bolt on or is removable from the car. I'm gonna need to do something with the motor. I talked already about how I put bearings in it. It's getting me around fine. I'm careful not to hammer on it because I know it's an older motor and I'm on borrowed time. I don't know if I would stay with a carburetor. I've thought about putting fuel injection on a similar motor, a 289 or a 302. I've thought about going bigger like a 351. I don't think I would be so crazy as to put an Ellis in the car, although I have always wanted to. I've also always wanted to put a turbo on something. So I really don't know. It might come down to what I find and what I feel like at the time, but I am gonna have to do something with the motor of this car. For some minor projects on this car, metalworking projects particularly, I'm wanting to delete the antenna because it's not something you'd have found on a Trans Am car, and I like patching metal. I also am wanting to make a spoiler for this car. Don't freak out, I'm not talking Fast and the Furious 2-foot high wing. I'm talking about making something simple out of aluminum that looks like it would have been fabbed in a garage in the 70s for somebody that was Trans Am racing. And that's actually going to tie in with one of the tools that I'm wanting to buy in kind of a different portion of this video or what you may see in the future. But that's something that I'm definitely wanting to make and pretty excited about. I've been thinking about it for a while. I even cardboard templated this about 6 months ago, and I've just been staring at the cardboard templates wondering if that's something I'll get around to. Probably a major project and a major question is what will I do with paint on this car? The car actually needs a quarter panel on the passenger side. It's been repaired before. It's been replaced actually, and it was a really poor repair. It looks like it was put back on with sheet metal screws and a fair amount of Bondo. So down the road, I may replace the quarter panel on the passenger side and do that right. If I do that, I'll have to check myself for mission creep because I like the patina of this car. I think a lot of the paint could be original. I'd like to believe it is. And I could either try to patina match that quarter panel, as much as I hate fake patina, or it would be an opportunity to repaint the car. So that just about wraps up the Mustang. There's a little more history than I meant to give you about it, but I think it kind of helps you understand the direction I'm wanting to go with the car. I want a vintage Trans Am theme on something that I can jump in and drive every day in a fairly comfortable fashion. While we're talking about comfortable fashion, that makes me think vintage air or old air is also gonna come on this car. I'm 90% sure that air conditioning is at the very top of my list. When we do the interior, that might be a good time. It might also be part of the motor swap or an engine rebuild on this car, but installing an aftermarket air conditioning and making it look factory through my factory ducts is a very high priority. Here's a video that I'm super excited to film, and I actually thought I would have had posted by now because I'm so excited about it. I finally broke down and bought a welding hood. I did a little research on the internet and I bought one that came with great reviews. People just rave about it and it looks super cool and it's got features I've not had on my hoods before. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get it out and I'm gonna pit it against some of my older helmets and I'm gonna show you guys how it compares. I'm gonna try to film this in a way where you can see the difference in the weld pedal through the lens of the hood as if you were looking through my eyes. So we can all find out together if the difference is worth the extra cost, which was substantial. So that's one to stick around for. The go-kart project. The go-kart project is an old Manco I bought because it looked just like one that one of my friends had when I was a kid, and I wanted one so bad. So our kids have been playing on this go-kart for quite a while. It had an old Predator 212 engine on it that truthfully was mounted crooked because the engine interferes with the back of the seat frame. So I ordered a Predator 224 for this go-kart, took it apart, thought it was going to be a bolt-up, and this motor has even substantially worse clearance issues, so we're going to have to do some modifications to the frame to get this engine to fit. So one of the things coming up is putting this 224 Predator engine on our Manco go-kart. And in the process, I'm wanting to install a second set of pedals so our shorter children can ride the go-kart. So with two sets of pedals, the big kids can reach further away and we can be up close so the smaller kids can ride as well. Something that I'm up in the air about is whether or not I'm going to assemble it just like it is or if I'm going to do a complete restoration on this go-kart. It's almost all the way blown apart and it'd be a great time to repaint the frame and give it that red and gold look that the originals had back in the 90s when I remember them. Oh, the Army truck, if you're not sick of it already, because we already have 3 videos. 50% of our videos so far are the Army truck, but it's because it's what we're working on right now. The reason we're even working on that Army truck is because it was broke down in a bay of the fire department and we needed to get it moved out of the way for an event. This truck may be retiring in the future and we also needed to get it mobile for that. What's funny about this project is that I've been on this fire department over 15 years and never had any interest in that truck. It was just a thorn in my flesh. It was just in the way and taking up a bay. We have hardly ever used this truck. I was afraid to drive it. Nobody else really got it out. The tires were always flat on it. It was kind of just a pain in the neck. But in getting it out, I've fallen in love with this truck. It has been so much fun. You've already seen us do a bunch to it. And unfortunately, I've done about all I can with it not being my truck. It's now a running, driving, movable truck, and the board can make a decision if we're gonna keep this truck or if it's gonna move on. So if this truck moves on, I'm already thinking about some of the things that I wanna do with it. At the very top of my list, I need to make it more dependable and safe for the highway. In order to get that done, we're gonna need to replace the axle seals. You saw me put the bars in the differential. Don't know yet if it fixed the leak because we only put 40 miles on it the other night. I'll drive it a little bit more, but I don't have high hopes for that fix. So axle seals are probably coming soon. Tires would be one of the main things. The tires on it are so dry rotted and in such poor condition. Anytime we're out on the road, we're really on borrowed time. So we will probably be purchasing tires for that truck and may mount them ourselves to show you guys how. if we keep the truck. The emergency brake is also going to need to either be repaired or replaced. I would like to make air work with that emergency brake. I don't know anything about that system yet, so we'd be learning the e-brake system and making the emergency brake work so I don't have to chock the tires every time I get out of the truck or have somebody with me to put chocks out while I'm holding the brakes. We would definitely clear the bed and probably rebuild the bed sides. I would take the tank and the pumps off. I think I would leave the lighting on the cab because it's a piece of the truck's history. And there's also some great scene lights on the back with the generator, and it'd be cool to leave those. And if we took this truck to events, having that lighting would be really fun. The steering on this truck is scary. There's about quarter to half a turn of the steering wheel that doesn't do anything. So going down the road, you're actually bouncing from one side to the other with the steering wheel, just trying to keep the truck in its lane. And that steering has got to be fixed. I don't know if it's going to be a matter of tightening an adjustment on the steering box or if there's a sloppy joint or what will be up against there. But in addition to tires and axle seals, the steering will have to be addressed. One other thing we're gonna have to address on this truck, or one other thing that I want to address on the truck, is changing the transmission fluid over to transmission fluid. Since the oil filter on this truck was dated 2001, and that was before the fire department acquired this truck from the military, I'm going to say the transmission probably still has engine oil in the transmission, which is something the military did, and it causes harder shifts. It's not inevitably wrong, but transmission fluid like a Dextron 3 will help the transmission to shift smoother and better. And there's a process of flushing the transmission about 4 times to get 98 to 100% of the fluid changed over in the transmission. Now, that stuff will get it back on the road. As far as down the road on this truck, some fun projects I have in mind could be a roll cage. We talked about fun tools already, and the roll cage in this truck would be a great excuse for me to buy a TIG welder. The reason I want a roll cage in this truck is if you look at the roof, there is hardly any structure. The windshield looks like it can actually fold down on this truck, and I know the roof comes off. So if this truck ever did have a catastrophic failure like a tire blowout or a rollover, there is just nothing over the top of your head. So you might call it a safety issue, you might call it a reason to buy a TIG welder, you might call it, I've never built a cage and I want to, but that's on my list. Another thing that would be way down the road on this truck is painting over the red. Part of me thinks the red looks really cool and is part of the truck's heritage. Part of me wants to remilitarize it and go back to either the original OD green or the sand color, which has always been my favorite. There might be Army truck gurus who say that's heretical to paint this a sand color because I believe they only came in green, but that is my favorite military color. So down the road, you might see us put a cage in this truck and paint it a sand color. So adding some support jacks to the back of my dump trailer is pretty much involving you guys in the solution to one of my everyday problems. I recently started hauling my skid steer in the back of my dump trailer just for convenience. That way I can show up to a job, load material, and haul some material without having to make multiple trips and take multiple trailers. I got a smaller skid steer to be able to do this, and it's really been cool. The problem is when I load the skid steer, the back tires of the truck can get lifted up off the ground and the back of the trailer gets pushed to the ground because there's no support under the ramps. The ramps on this trailer pull out, and unlike my bigger trailers, there's nothing that keeps the back of the trailer from getting pushed towards the ground. So I want to make some jacks that I could reposition or hold in place with pins that would slide up out of the way, but always be on the trailer with me so I don't have to carry jack stands anymore to load the skid steer. So I already have the materials for this. It's something I've been meaning to do for a long time, and that's gonna happen. That's one of the projects we're gonna do in the near future because it's a function of our daily life. I mentioned some of these videos are going to have to do with work we're doing for clients and some with our hobbies. And the hobby I'm probably most excited about right now is RC. My kids and I have built RC cars. We really like the crawlers. I started out thinking that I would like a stock one, and I just got carried away with parts. And now I have 4 times the money in it that I started with all the aftermarket accessories available. And there's a good chance that I'm going to do something like that again. For the last 6 months though, the airplanes is what I've been super excited about. I don't know of a more peaceful activity than flying RC at dark or at dusk. So I'm not sure how to incorporate these planes in videos, if we're going to be building RC airplanes, if we might be building a runway or repairing crashed airplanes. I'm still trying to brainstorm on that, but if there's a way for me to involve the RC aircraft or RC crawlers, or maybe even something fast like the RC drag cars I've never dabbled with, you'll definitely see that on this channel. Another video I may make is going to talk about the very beginning of my YouTube journey. I have never edited a video before the first video that I edited for YouTube 5 weeks ago. I had never even cropped a video for length on my phone, and I knew nothing about the editing software, about film practices. This is all completely new for me. And I would like to do a video on maybe the top 5 or 10 things that I didn't know, because some pretty blatantly obvious things to me now, I had no clue about when I started. Would it have had an impact on whether or not I started doing YouTube? I don't know. Would it have helped immensely in my first videos? I hope so. I hope 20 videos in, I can look back and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I even posted that first or second video. But you do have to start somewhere. And if somebody's gonna get started in this, I'd like to share maybe 5 things you can do so your first video is better than my first video. Another project we've got on queue is building a wood-fired smoker. This is one that may end up being more of a series. I already started out by purchasing a trailer, large, maybe a medium offset smoker, and I did a lot of modifications to it to get it to work the way I wanted to. And it works really well, but I've been wanting to build one for years. I got a 250-gallon propane tank a couple years ago with that in mind, and it's just been sitting out in the yard waiting on me to be ready. And YouTube might be the perfect excuse to finally get this in the shop and build the smoker I want. When I build this smoker, I would focus on efficient airflow, temperature control. I've even thought about using servos to make some automated electronic dampers where I can control the temperature from my phone at a distance. A couple fun things we could do with this smoker are making a muscle car hot rod style, something that I would pull behind the Mustang to events, or I might make something large to pull behind the Army truck if we end up with that, or one of my 4-wheel drive trucks. This would also be a perfect video to finish up with barbecuing or cooking some meat, which is one of my passions right now. Lastly, home inspections and home repairs is something you're probably going to see quite a bit of on this channel. I'm finishing the process right now of getting my home inspector license, and we're about to begin a major renovation on our home. We have an older, built in the 60s, remodeled in the 70s or 80s home with a lot of damage, and it failed inspection for my homework in a lot of areas. And in doing the homework for my inspector education, I found so many failure points on this home. And with my construction experience, I already know pretty well what's behind the wall. So what I want to do is show you guys from an inspector's perspective how you can look on the surface, how you can watch your own home. And when you spot a sign or an error on the outside, I'm going to teach you how to spot a problem. And then I'll be able to show you through the renovation side of this what that problem looks like back behind and why it's so important that you remedy or find a solution for it before it gets as bad as I've let a lot of things get on my own home. Once our home renovation is finished and we move into this as a larger part of our daily life, I'll be taking you guys out to the field to show you some of the exceptional situations that I find when inspecting other homes, and probably recommending solutions that you can either do yourself or giving you advice on how to pick a contractor to fix the problems for you. So that's a synopsis of where we are and where we're headed, a glimpse of some of the projects that are coming in the future. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you even watched all the way through this, I'm kind of shocked, but I appreciate it. I know we got a lot of friends watching, and I'm so grateful for the support. So thanks for sticking around. Please let me know in the comments if any of these projects seem particularly interesting to you, if you're excited to see more of it. If you think I'm going the wrong direction with the channel, I'm really trying to bring you guys along in things that we're already doing that I really think are pretty cool, and sharing the knowledge that we have in an entertaining way. So thanks for sticking around. It's tough getting a channel off the ground. Please like, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for your support. We'll see you next time.